Alright, let's not piss around here. So WoW is done. I did WoW. Here is how you can do WoW. Yeah, we're getting to the point where these tutorial style videos, you'd think maybe there isn't going to be a huge audience for this, because these are getting some pretty difficult levels, but I think there might be more people who could use this than you might expect. If you are very specifically someone who is able to beat WoW and is looking to do so, I'm not going to make this a, click for click, ultra in-depth thing, but I'm going to get a lot of stuff in here. Initially I thought WoW would just be a kind of quick video covering my completion, but there's enough weird stuff in this level that I'm willing to go through what I've figured out. So first things first, this level is it's a ball ache of epic proportions. Again, I have Death Tracker. Usually the graphs for these levels, the beginning of the levels tend to be harder. I think that's just a phenomenon with all levels. And this level really took it to another dimension. I've never had anything like this before. I mean, it's like it's asymptotic almost. It's crazy. The line is glued to 0 all the way. Like, I can't visibly see pixels come off of the bottom until about 39 or 40%. The drop in this level is somewhere around 44. It's just glued to 0 from the drop before 50%. You want to see something nuts? 9,208 attempts. Attempts to the drop from here down. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 attempts to the drop. I only got to 44 14 times ever. Crazy deaths at the start. So yeah, it's a ball ache. And the hardest part is the beginning. Pretty much everything pre-drop is really hard, and the stuff afterwards is a bit technical, but it's not that hard. And the thing is, most of it is just clicks, but there's so many of them, and there's a chance to die in almost all of them. These are, you like buzz through here, you bounce through these, you click this, you spam these for... It's all very fast paced, and none of these clicks are particularly hard. You just have to get a feel for them. So, for here, you just click the orb, in the portal, and then click this. You just click a bunch of times really quickly. I don't remember exactly how to time those. I completely got it through feel because it's the first 5 seconds of the level. Maybe you could devise a really specific pattern for this if it winds you up that much. That was probably clever, but you kind of don't need to because it's just so early in the level, and I don't know, man. And yeah, none of these look that hard, but that's like 7 clicks. You're going to dice at one of them. The first thing is that when you click this, you fall as the cube here, and then you've got to the ship when you come out with your momentum going down, you have to hold to go through. If you just hold before you even hit this portal, your ship will go through 95% of the time at the perfect angle. And furthermore, if you hold, then when you come through the portal, you will automatically click this orb. So you can kind of take this click out of the equation. What the key is, though, is that you can't hold from this click. Once you click here and you go through, if you don't let go, you'll go up as the ship, but you won't automatically click this, you'll die. So consciously try and click this, let go, and click somewhere in this fall, and hold it from there to ultimately hit this. Then you just have to time these 2 orbs. They aren't that bad. The first click is the more important one, because if you buffer this really early, you completely lock yourself out of being able to survive this click. Essentially, as long as you don't hit it too early, you can get away with clicking this with some weight, because obviously then if you click too hard, you can go too high or probably too low. Really, it's the weight of the click that's more important than the timing. And again, like before, there's just so much, and it's really fast paced. You can't really tell just staring at the copyable. These clicks happen really fast. It's quite easy to not hit them at the right time just because of how quickly it breezes past you. But once you float through here, you have to tap this, but you see you kind of almost want to go straight. Really, you just have to click this very light, and preferably you should go in higher up so that you have more room to survive this click, because if you hit too hard, of course you will die here. You then enter this jewel. It's a jewel ship, and you just want to straight fly. The thing to look at is the reversed ship, which is usually on the top. Basically, the reverse ship will be going this way, and the right side up ship will be going this way, and you got to straight fly to keep them away from the saw and the spikes. But you should be looking at the reverse ship on the top, because when you exit the jewel, that's the one that's going to be coming through. Try not not to have it go too far this way. You try and have the momentum kind of going down and just let it coast a bit. Click this. For most of these clicks, for the record, a lot of the timings on the orbs you can die to, but it's only if you specifically will buffer or go obviously way too late. You can fuck this up if you go really early. You can even like fall completely below the saw. You know, as the more you go through here, it's possible to spam a bit too quick or something like that, I think, but it's unlikely. Click here. You got to click this one pretty quickly because, well, there's just not much distance here and you're going quick. So if you're not really on this click, you can hit it just too late and fuck it up. Click this. This orb you need to deliberately click later, otherwise you won't make it to here. Click. Just a little tap or couple of taps to bash this ledge as the ship. And then this is a bit of a tight part. It's very short though, where you just do a click up and you don't need much clicking here. You don't have to be spamming to make it through. There's a bit more room than you might expect once you're used to it, basically. You do one click to get up, and you probably only need one click to stay up. Immediately turn into the ball. Click. You do have to make sure not to click this too early. Hit these orbs. Now, this little orb pattern is a bit awkward. I've seen people do it in some weird ways where you can skip some of them, but it's really not easy. There's stuff here that makes it hard to scam, and this is like the first part that I would give specific advice on, or at least how I did it. These 3 clicks I don't think too hard about, and then the way I compartmentalize this is I bunch together these 3 clicks in my mind, and then I bunch together these 3 clicks in my mind. That's going to be what a lot of my advice is, a lot of my insight. It's just how I take a string of 20 orbs in a row uninterrupted and have them make sense instead of being just 20 orbs in a row, because it's really hard to really digest those parts. So the first 3 clicks you pretty much just spam. There's not too much thought in this. Click. Then there's in my mind, a notable pause before you do click. And if you bunch them up like that, it flows consistently, roughly, fairly consistently up to here. And I just don't like micro clicking. It feels inconsistent to me. You can click this, really micro click, so that you land and then click again individually. I just waited and clicked this sort of medium, like a neutral medium timing, or maybe even a late timing, and held so that I immediately jumped. And then this ship's odd, right? Because, yeah, you don't fly through there, although they really did all that deco for some reason. Once you jump up as the ship, you got to fly up and get to about here. You then get teleported here as a cube. You rattle through here, and then you come through as the ship again and have to fly through this gap all the way to here. Then it flips gravity to hit about here, and that's when you get teleported here. Now, the issue really, both of these ship parts they're not free. They will kill you sometimes. Not only is it moderately hard, I don't know if it's a 240 hertz thing. The cube rattles in a really erratic way, and it would frequently bug where you're supposed to come out right side up, and sometimes you would just kind of clip off in a weird way and be upside down, and I just can't account for that. To be fair, you could absolutely try and be aware that you could get the bug and be ready to fly whichever way up you come out as. That's long, and because I felt like a victim of the crime of bugs in GD, I just wrote off every attempt where I came out wrong. You could try and survive those attempts, there's no reason you couldn't, but bear that in mind. Again, I don't know what causes it, but it could happen. I tried to make consistent methods of coming through here to reduce that. The best I came up with was that I had 1 click to get up to this opening, and then I would do 2 clicks, like just 2, because you're going quite quickly, just 2 clicks to get kind of coasted up to about here, which is where you teleport. It just didn't work. And then from here, this is just flying. It gets consistent. Try not to click too hard through this transition and bash up here. That was much more common for me than dying too low. And yeah, you just fly to about here. You teleport down here. Bounce. Click this. Medium to late. Otherwise you crash here. Click. And again, loads of these timings are just learnable. You can acquire them in your muscle memory. You click this, but if you buffer it, something goes wrong. You jump, you click this. If you buffer it, something goes wrong. Everything can go wrong, but nothing is too unbalanced. I never saw that before. Yeah, you click, jump, click, and you're supposed to be jumping. It should be noted, you can not jump and just fall and you'll slide here, but then you've got to time this, and so essentially it's not necessarily easier, and it creates an inconsistency, so I wouldn't recommend that. Just hold, so you jump. This click is kind of, this click's whatever, this click you have to do later, deliberately. Jump, as the UFO this all is. You become the ship. You have to keep your ship straight through here, hit the middle of the dash orb, then you hit a pad and go up. And that's the second part of the very beginning. Less detrimental to in a consistency sense and whatever than the first 10%, but a challenge to maintain. It would take ages to go through the really precise timings here, and I don't have super good solutions. It would just be me saying if it's an early or a late click. You can figure that out yourself. The specific cues I'd give, most of the clicks I just got muscle memory and the kind of feel with the song, and I just got a general feel for them. But specifically this UFO click, the ones here, I would often go too late and I just hit the spike. Clicking right as you enter this portal, like right as you're aligned, is generally a really good cue for me. And the following clicks aren't that hard. It's usually the first one I would die to. And then this is a bit weird. Jesus, this is a bit weird. I've seen other people do it where they just kind of fall through all of them. For me, I would frequently hit this lower spike. So I did a really light tap to keep myself up, and then another one to keep myself up. They have to be the lighter. Generally, I found the lighter those clicks were, and perhaps the closer they are to the portals, the better. You can go wonky all sorts of directions there if you get it wrong, and you can hit this too early. You can't just buffer this dash orb, you'll crash here. And now this part, this long kind of part, chase part, is it's even more timings generally, but slower. And these felt a bit more finicky at first, but they became more consistent than the very beginning, the first 20%, over time. As the cube, you bounce up. You have to jump here, you just wait a little bit to slide down the ledge. You jump, you hit this late, because this comes down. This is a moving part, this is actually down here. So you have to hit this late so you can get all the way down. Jump, hit this as you come up as the robot, or not as the robot yet, but you have to click this green orb later so that you make it up here. Somewhere on here, you do a kind of light click, upside down, you do another click. You have to click this kind of later so you make it through, flip gravity the other way, and then you have to click this so such that you come through here and hit this portal's actually down here. You can click this a bit too early and then you'll go too close to this and miss the portal and slide. I think if you jumped there, you would then still live, but that's weird to do spontaneously. This click is just generally late and it was okay. This click was a bit weirder, and to make it consistent, I just tried to click whenever I was right in the middle of the green orb. That was very consistent for me. So yeah, you hit this, reverse gravity, so that you're just normal, jump over the spikes, fall up onto this ledge upside down, and as you run up, you have to jump, click, you go the right way up. Now you're the robot, you have to do a little click here, it's not very precise. Then you have to jump, there's a blue orb here, you have to click it and then immediately hold up here. The one thing to note is that if you jump kind of too early, or try and do the 2 clicks to flip and then jump too early, your second click that's meant to hit the orb, you won't be close enough, and so you'll just kind of keep running. So maybe keep a conscious sort of gap between the jump up and then the orb and the jump. You click the orb, you hold as you go up here, and then you do another very similar pattern, short click, hold. So both times it's like tap, hold, and as you hold up here, you keep holding, so as the ship, you stay up on the ceiling and then let go to fall. You then teleport as a cube down here. You have to hop up with each of these orbs and not go too early or late. This part is a bit janky. You'll kind of get random deaths to this the whole time until you beat the level because of the nature of the clicks. It's just a bit inconsistent, but it's not that bad. The transition here, this is kind of where I made my first split, where the way I saw this level, I split up so that all of that was one mini part. Also because this transition is ass. The way it works is the cube, you jump, and then you're the ship, and you have to pull up so that you can float through these spikes. And it's tricky because you can't always hold from the click from this jump and automatically go up. Not comfortably anyway. Generally, you have to jump earlier for that to work so that you jump earlier, and so your ship is pointed further down. Just the way the distance works is that you pull up to the right heights more easily. If you jump later, you're not really angled down as much, and you end up being straightened out kind of too early. If you were to hold any longer, you could like crash really high up here. So there's two ways to go about it, which is to try and consistently jump early and maintain that hold and go through, or you jump, to be honest, medium to late, which is a much bigger part of the window, and you separate these clicks. So you do kind of 2 clicks, where you do one to pull up and then a second one just to maintain your altitude later on. I kind of did both because there's enough time here that you can kind of tell, especially because the early 1-click hold method, you have to be really early, and you will get used to realizing, yeah, that was super early, so I'm gonna have to do this. You can even jump so early that you miss this entirely. So yeah, I generally tried to do the second option, but if I could tell I jumped super early, then I'd just hold. As the cube, you then bounce up, 2 clicks, 1, 2. Here, you have to click these orbs later, mainly because you can click them more on the early side, but I like to click this and then hold for the second jump. And if you do that here, the hold will make you jump here, but you'll jump from an earlier point, and it kind of just makes it inconsistent. It just feels weirder from there. So try and jump later, hold this so that you jump here, you click this orb on a medium kind of timing. This one will kill you, usually from going too late, but you can die from going too early. The window's not terrible, just hit this. You can usually buffer this, especially if you hit the green orb on the later side. More often, I found that I would die by not even reaching close enough to hit this, rather than hitting it too early. Click, click, click this, go up as the ship. Little adjustment, click as you go through, a little straight fly thing. And getting yourself through here is really not that bad. And then this part I found a bit fiddly for a while, but then it got quite consistent. You coast through this straight-ish gap upside down, and then as you go the other way and you start to fall, and these things move, so the alignment isn't exactly like it looks here. As you fall a bit, you hold this, which sends you upside down, so you crash down here and you hold to slide along a bit. Don't have to hold that long. What's key here is that, especially when I would zone out a bit if I'm not focused, if you click really early, you will die. So if you find that you do that when you're not focusing, then yeah, focus and try and deliberately wait a bit to hit this. You hit this, and when you release, you float down, and then you got to click again to come back down into this portal. That can be a bit tough. This is just one of those parts where there's not that much room for error, and there's a bunch of different clicks that you have to do, and you can get into a chain reaction sort of situation where if you mess up one, the others become harder. So this part I found tricky, but eventually I just got consistent with it. And yeah, as you come through with the ship here, now you're right side up in your mini, you can do 1 click and then a second click and get through with just 2 clicks, but I found that I actually had a hard time doing this consistently, because I would hit something, either I'd kind of come out too high and immediately die, or I'd do the first click too late and I'd hit this. Somehow I did 3 clicks, which hopefully is clear when I cut in how I would play this part. Try and go in here on the lower side, because obviously as you float down, you have to hold to slide along this floor. If you go too high, you'll just hit this spike always. And as you hold, you come down, and then you click this, immediately go up, reverse again, so very quickly click again to keep coasting along here. You don't really have to do too much clicking. It's not too intense once you're used to it. You just try and coast cleanly through the middle of each portal. That's really, you're just trying to guide the ship safely. There's no crazy, mechanics have to go on here. See, upside down, you can coast through here. Just try and chill, coast into this. This click, you have to make sure you nail just the 1 click, and it's not that hard, but doing this in multiple clicks, where you click this, sends you flying down here, and you just have to coast again. Try and close cleanly into this portal. Doing too much is a bad idea. Just do 1 click, and then by the time you're here, maybe you can adjust yourself a bit. And then as you flip here, just try and coast through here. So you really usually don't have to do more than 1 or 2 clicks if you do it well. Once you get to this point, like through this gap, you're safe. Turn of the cube, jump. You can buffer this so that you kind of jump immediately as you come off this ledge. You'll bounce around as the cube here, and you'll see it goes dark, and it's really hard to see what comes up next, which is a wave. And that can be bad because you jump here and you really buffer this. Just the way the transition works, if you see, you're just blind. You can't see this obstacle and you can barely see where you're going to come up as the wave. So if you try and time it so that you click, because essentially the issue is if you buffer, you go up quite high. You'd like, in theory, to be going up such that you aim right for the middle of these spikes, but you're really aimed for the top spike. And so you still can release through this gap nicely, but you're more at risk of dying to hitting the top spike by not releasing early enough. And there's not much you can really do about that because it's completely blind. The thing is though, it's not 100% blind. You can see the silhouette at the bottom spike. So I tried to, and I don't know how helpful it was really, but I tried to, as I was coming up to it, holding so that I would automatically go up, look at this spike so that I was a bit more ready to time when I would release as I came through. And yeah, now we get to some of the more spammy timing, sync related clicks. You come up as the wave, you release down. I believe this is one UFO click. It's not really that hard. Again, most of this is really sync based. So you jump as the UFO, click, 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 and then hold this. It'll be really clear, especially looking at it and when you play it yourself, how the sync works. But you can kind of not reach here. It can be tricky to not reach far enough off of this orb, but usually it's not a problem. Hold. And the crux of this part I found was it's really helpful to hold this later. And so you do this first click more squarely above it and not early. I found that helps to make things flow nicer. So you click. Click, 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 click. This looks like you just do one click, but it works much, much better if you do two. So you do click, 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 click. That makes loads of sense when you know the song. The problem is that most of it is really just feel. Hitting this later is one cue that I'd be mindful of. And another that if you know how you do the clicks, it can actually be a bit detrimental to think. I can find that you get a bit mind blocked potentially by overthinking here. So yeah, besides making sure to hit this too late, I'm a bit wary of saying hit this specifically early or late. It's one of the parts that is sync based and happens really quickly, basically. So focusing on, overthinking the timings can be detrimental. Hitting this super early is generally going to screw up your kind of trajectories here. So after this click, you want to wait a little bit before doing the click. Then it's click, 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 click. Click, hold, and you hold, you fall down as the wave. This wave is not easy, but I found it actually got surprisingly consistent, but again in a really feely muscle memory, not thinking too hard sort of way. You go down, you go up, you release so that you fall, you hold to run along this surface, let go, hold to run along, let go to run along, hold to run along, let go, and then when you come down you do it, click up, fall down, click up, fall down, click up, fall down, click up. It's a very jabby sort of up, up, up pattern. That's how it feels. Tight spaces, there's not much I can do about that to help you. This is very muscle memory related, but I found it gets really consistent actually. You click up, and then after a very short wait, hold, release, hold to go through here. Then you just click and hit all these orbs, and these aren't very threatening. And you don't hold this dash orb, you just really click it really quickly, so you just go boop, and then fall. Because if you hold, you can tell the angle. You don't hold and hit this portal really. If you hold, you'll die most of the time. You just do a quick click and immediately release to fall into here. And that's really the hardest part of really the whole level done. This part is just more tense. This is the first part really where you do start to get a little bit of nerves. I mean, as I said, from 0 I only got to the drop here. This is where you're safe for the drop 14 times ever from 0. So yeah, safe to say, whenever I got here I was pretty nervous. Even though this point is 38%, it's barely into this after the first third. So you fall in and now you're going quick as the ship. You have to fly through here, which isn't too hard. And yeah, after hitting this portal, you try and do a quick click to go down. This is a ship part that is actually, it's a bit more open, so you can be more individual in how you do this, but for me, I tried to use minimal clicks and be very consistent. So I tried to come in at a sort of straight angle. Like I didn't want to fall in too hard, but also didn't want to go too far down, kind of a neutral angle. Then do a little click to just make sure I clear this spike. One kind of stronger click to make sure I coast through these spikes. Usually I try to make my way up here with 2 clicks, like 1, 2, I guess. And then here, just try and do 1 main click to go through, and maybe 1 last really light click just to make sure I'm adjusted into here properly. It's not really many clicks, and it's not too tight. It's more nerves that are the danger here, which is why I tried to have a really consistent click pattern so that I wouldn't die of nerves. Because dying of the difficulty is not a massive danger. As you coast into here, you're going pretty fast, so you only really need one click about here, because you'll be floating down, so as you reverse you'll actually coast all the way to here roughly. You only really need one click to go all the way through here, and then I would do a really light click at the other side, I think, something like that. Fall down, and then it's really open here. You just don't die in the middle of here, which is possible, but it's, it doesn't happen very often at all. Then you gotta sort of just click these orbs. You can pretty much buffer them. You'll almost never die to these. Click, 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 bounce through a thing here. You don't click this. You still auto, you click, there's an orb down here. These are closer together. There'll be an orb you have to buffer to go up. Should be noted, you can absolutely try and buffer this really early if you're not paying attention and just click this and die. So don't do that. Click a pink orb here to bounce through here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the drop. Now, the drop is actually most of the flashy stuff in this level and some of the intimidating stuff. The drop is easy. If you practice it, it becomes easy, especially the first part of the drop. It does look like a ball lake though. If you look, you've got 4 orbs, 3 orbs, 2 portals, orbs. There's just so many orbs. And of course, it's synced to the song roughly. So how do you do this? Because if you do this in practice for the first time, you might really do the entire thing just by spamming randomly. This gets very consistently and you don't do it by spamming randomly. So here's how I did it. The very start can be a bit tricky just because you aren't really clued into the timing. If you practice this 50 times in a row in a copyable, you'll be really tired because it is very fast and spammy, it's clicky. But B, you'll have a really good feeling for the rhythm of the clicks, which you won't when you're playing from zero. So it might take some deaths at the very start to adjust to getting the tempo right of the clicks. But after the first jump, here's the way I compartmentalized it. I would think of them as 1, 2, 3, 4, a batch of 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's the first thing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I would next see this as a batch of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the most important click of this part, in fact, that's a lie actually. I'd see this as 1, 2, and then a 1, 2. All the ones before, it didn't really matter. Like this 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though it's a parallelogram, sort of like 1, 2, 1, 2. It's what I was getting at just before. It's not actually particularly important how precise in relation to each other you do all those clicks. You can die if you're not really nailed on, but I see this though as an individual 1, 2, and then this is an individual 1, 2, because crucially, if you hit this too early, which is easy to do when you're just clicking to a rhythm, it screws up, like you'll hit stuff. I see this as a 1, 2, and I make a conscious effort to delay this second click. So the rhythm, it would be like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like it's a bit later. Like the rest of them really are kind of hit to the song, at least to the rhythm of the song. This one I deliberately hit later, and then it's just kind of spam again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. These are all individual clicks that are really easy to understand, and then you got to time this little click up and down as the wave. And then you move on to this next part, you teleport up here again as the UFO, and this part's a lot easier than the first part because it's just a lot of spamming and there's not really anything specific like this black orb that you have to time. All you have to know is there are 9 clicks, and I split them up as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold this to like, basically you just kind of buffer this. You'll click 3 pink orbs up here. Don't click them too early. Don't buffer these. Give it a little bit of time. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then buffer this. And if you click these kind of not super early, then you'll be able to buffer this and fall into this little rattling through gap. So yeah, this part's a lot more consistent once you're here. The first part of this though is also like all this is super consistent once you get that rhythm and you get comfortable with it. It's just really hard to digest at first when you're looking at it because it just looks like a series of loads of clicks that are hard to memorize. From here is harder. There's less clicking, but there's more that you have to bear in mind. So you rattle through here, you hit this and not too early or late. You hold so that as the ship you come down, and then once you're down, this platform is closer up here. You are the robot, and the platform that it's here, you have to do a little click to hop over the spike that you see. Then there are 5 clicks. So I would kind of see the hop as not part of the pattern. It's like you hold, you do the hop, and then you have to do 5 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't click this too early. Like if the hop and then this click happens super quick after, you will still hit the spike. So hop and give it a real, like just a tiny moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 6th comes quite quick after, but you can just see the distance. It's a bit further away. You want to hit this as early as possible though. So you buffer it and hold so that you jump immediately off of here, and then it's a pattern of 3. Click, click, click. You will bounce off of a pad and a pad. You don't need to click those. Then it's a 1, 2, 3. So the pattern so far is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 6. Bounce. 1, 2, 3. Wait. 1, 2, 3. And then just a bunch of back and forth clicking. I think 8 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Short hold so that you go up and then fall through. This gap will be a bit higher. Fall through as UFO. Jump as UFO. Click. Then your slow ship and you coast into this roughly straight. And these orbs are weird. These are probably the most inconsistent things here. These clicks can get a bit out of control, but especially if you don't buffer this, you can get weird stuff happening here. But really, you can be pretty rough with the bunch of 3 here and with the bunch of 3 here, and these are generally easy. But getting these right are hard because this platform here is up here, and essentially you hit this orb, hit this orb, hit this orb. You have to very immediately sort of jump, and you'll bonk on this, and you have to bonk on this to make this saw go away. So you jump and bonk, and then you hit an orb that you hold, so you flip and then jump, and then you hit this to go further in here. And yeah, the trouble is just that the distances, a lot can go wrong. These 3 orbs aren't the easiest thing in the world because they're pretty close to spikes, although it doesn't look like it here. When everything's moved in place, the spikes are quite close and you can die to them for sure. Firstly, if you jump too late, shit just goes wrong. The thing is that when you bonk here, you really want to be able to buffer the orb that's somewhere around here. But if you're kind of too early, you can die to a spike, and things can just go wrong in a lot of ways. The way I made it consistent was that instead of jumping individually here, because then you can jump too early and end up hitting this, or jump too late and things just don't work, I would hold this and then make this automatic and consistent. And in order for that to work, you need to be hitting this sort of medium to late, which is something you can consciously do. But now the problem is that you don't come to this orb from a consistent start point. You come to it from 2 orbs floating that you reach from this transition, which is you as a ship in the middle of nowhere. So the lead up here, these 3 orbs are the real crucial thing. I found that hitting them roughly in the middle, but not too early, importantly, then sets you up to be able to hit this later. So if you hit both of these medium to late, then it's easier to hit this medium to kind of late and hold it to automatically jump at the right distance, and then buffer this to jump and jump. And again, this happens very quickly, but you just have to practice and get used to that. And that's sort of my advice. Immediately as you come through, you tap this to slide on here. A lot of these inputs, like stringing this all together, is really hard, but these ones aren't really the difficult thing. You get those quite consistent, more consistent than this stuff. You then hold, 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 hold. These are a bit weird. You know, they just float in the middle of nowhere. They don't feel like they sync particularly well, but there's a lot of wiggle room relative to the other parts, so this is okay. Click. You then have to slide along this slope. It's further down. You have to jump off of it to reach this. Click, hold, give it a moment before you jump down, because if you jump too early, again, these are moving parts that are closer together in the level. If you jump too early, hit this. If you jump too early, you hit this. So be careful, and there's some shit in front of you as well. So jump, and then you enter the you enter the spam, the real, like, what this level is about, spammy part. You have to jump into this portal, by the way, if you had no idea. And yeah, the point of this part, god damn, the point of this part, if you didn't know, is you do gameplay stuff, but then you reach a point, you see this will kill you, but it goes away if you have clicked enough times up until here. And so there are a bunch of checkpoints that you need to have reached a certain click count to pass. If you're on controller, I don't know how to help you. Go ask Brandon Larkin wherever he is these days, because he did it on controller. I don't know how. Probably at least one other person's done it on controller. I don't know who they are though. I did this on keyboard and it was fine. In fact, the actual clicking enough was really not the hard part. Obviously, you use 2 keys, and the big trick for a lot of this spam section is that you can double click and it will count both of the clicks. And obviously the point there is that if you try and alternate your clicks always, you won't be used to that, and you might just soar way too high as the shit because you're clicking twice as much. If you double click, as the ship's not going to go up twice as hard. It's going to go up as if you're only clicking with one key. So you can essentially get 2 clicks in for each 1 click you actually do. That applies for the ship. It applies for the wave. This is the ship, and you just want to coast down into this wave portal. And yeah, I would do double clicks as I was coasting down. And because I was overlapping them, it wouldn't send me too high. It's way trickier doing this with alternating clicks unless that's like a technique that you're used to. Someone's made that a thing. I need to look into that as I get better, just in case I need to add to my arsenal, but whatever. Same thing with this wave. I would double click to get more clicks in while being safe. You then funnel in here and you're a cube. And here I would start alternating to spam more. This is really far away and you'll never die to these clicks. This is quite close and you will die to this, and I don't know how to set this up in a consistent timing sort of way to always avoid it. You will probably just die here sometimes and mold. It seemed, maybe I'm making it up, but it seemed like if I deliberately tried to spam as fast as possible on here, that was good. Or that helped sometimes, because as I say, especially if you apply the double click kind of strat on the ship and then on the wave, you don't need to spam crazy fast through here to make the count. Really, you can spam like okay, and spamming okay-ish is good enough to make you survive this and this 100% of the time. You see the gap's huge and pretty big here, and this is the one that's close. So here, give it everything here, like really gun it through here to give yourself the best chance. And then here, you see it's all deblocked. If you still needed clicks here, maybe you will if you just can't spam as fast, then you can do that. But for me, pretty much by the time I got here, I was done with the clicks. So I would just let go, make sure it was a consistent transition, because I would sometimes screw this up. And all this is you click this, and I'd recommend not trying to buffer it, because you could click earlier than you think and you're the wave still maybe or something. So just click this as you hit it, as you reach it. Hold this dash orb to send you down, and if you do it right, you'll be a reverse, so you'll fall to here, then you just jump, hold this click to jump, so flip and then jump, click this, and you're into the next part. As you reach this, pure spam, not difficult at all. You spam as much as you can, you pretty much never die. You will never die, unless you don't hit the click count, which, I don't know how you can manage that. And then as the cube, you come up, you hit bounce off of some random shit, it's auto. You fall down here, and you have to hit this later. If you buffer this too early, you'll die. Don't buffer this too early, wait a bit before you jump, hit this, you fall off, come down, you got to buffer this, and that's when you enter the next spam. The weird thing about this is if you just spam as fast as possible, I would come up against an issue where this is the more wonky side. The first side is hard, like the first half of this spam is hard just because this thing will kill you because you don't spam hard enough, and everything else is pretty much free. This part, it generally has a bit more sort of chaos randomness to it overall. And the first issue is that depending on how you kind of enter this spam, you can spam as hard as you want. Sometimes maybe you'll be right on it. Sometimes you'll just end up clicking your first click a bit too low somehow. Give it some thought to try and time the first click so that you're in line perfectly. You're not too low. And then basically you just spam all of these clicks. For this, I didn't even double click through this wave. The click count is mega free for this, for me. So I would literally just coast through doing like 3 normal clicks one-handed with the wave, because there is obviously loads of space designed for you to be able to spam, but because I just didn't need to, it just added risk that was unnecessary. So I would just click through here calmly. I would then click through these individually. I would do 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, all just, with my normal key. At first I tried to spam these, but as I say, completely unnecessary for me to reach the click count, and it would just, this is the most random part. The main issue being not really dying to around any of these clicks, but then here you've got to really spam so that you stay in a straight line and so that you make these and stay on these, and it's really easy to just get a bit too far out and fall and die. And I found that doing these first 6 more deliberate and individually, just doing click, 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 and then spamming again with both keys from here right in the middle was more consistent, because essentially you do want to just be more focused on making sure you nail the spam starting right from here, and to do that I clicked these individually with just one hand. Spam the rest, then you fall down, you do 3 UFO jumps, really rudimentary, like you can die to these if you don't time them sort of roughly in the middle, but that's like something you die to when you first practice it in practice mode. But bear that in mind if you're particularly prone to fucking things up with nerves. Although it must be said, I barely had nerves until the very end of this. I got there so infrequently from 0, and it was so easy in the runs that I knew, like, I had way more confidence than usual in this part, like this far into a level from 0. You can see it's just 16 clicks or whatever, but it's a short space. And again, I double clicked, like I would just do double clicks at the same time so that I wasn't spamming out of control as the ship. But still, somehow maybe they won't register quite as clean. It's probably the most tense click count related part of this entire spam section. You can just do double clicks and make sure you're not too sort of lazy with them, like you're not doing too few. I realized that I was cutting it really close almost every time, and I also found that as a result of sort of bugs and things, if you barely make it, like if you do your final click to release this, like when you're practically in the transition, what happens is the cube is you're supposed to be flung all the way up, but this thing would kind of move out the way later, or some of the moving parts happening as you're already there just meant that you'd get a really floppy sort of jump up and you'd actually just die. Even though you made it through the obstacle, it wouldn't be good enough if you didn't finish all the clicks early enough. So to try and make it more consistent, I would kind of do double clicks in bursts of 2, where I'd do like 2 double clicks really quickly in a row, then again and again. So in theory, I'm trying to get like bursts of 4, and usually I'd have 1 click spare. But yeah, this is the part where I'd recommend probably experimenting a bit to find a method, because this is the most tense part, and it would really suck if you got to here and then you died from 0 on this part of the spam, because of how RNG the other dangers in the spam feel like. And yeah, as you slide up as the cube, you just click this, jump, hold, click this and hold, click this immediately after coming through the teleport, click this as the ball to come up here, and then you just let yourself fall through the transition. But if you manage to buffer this super early, you bug out and die somewhere up here somehow. So give it just a split second before you click here. You roll through, transition, and you're in the ending. And the ending is doable, but this is another part, especially because it's super late, where there's some really specific things that I had to figure out that I think are worth telling people. So a lot of this is kind of swing coptery, but you're the cube, not a ball. Immediately your cube gets flung up here, right side up. You need to click to reverse, hold this, and then fall onto this ledge. You click this, and I would hold it because you get jeweled, and one of the jewels becomes a ship that is upside down. And so to avoid letting it hit this, the holding makes sure it goes up here and makes this mini cube jump. Now the focus again is just on the cube that is falling like this, and you got to click to make it reverse like this. The note is you want to click this orb sometime kind of in the middle. It's not super important, but if there's any part that I had the least control over, is this little sequence here, because this cube gets affected a little bit, and you can go too late and too early and guaranteed die if you don't hit it in the right window. And so you try and go a little bit in the middle, kind of where the cube hasn't reached the end of this ledge yet, but it's really close. You pretty much want to hold right until the moment that you need to click again, so you immediately release and click to recourse here. Then this orb, this is a really quick 2-click sequence where you click and very quickly click again, because this reverses you to make you fall, and then you have to click so that you start falling up through here. That then sends you through this, which lets you fall to here. And so this is the next click, and this is the really important part that I have a method for, because this saw is here, like it kind of moves to this point, and as the dual cube you need to click this so that they go over and under, and this is really specific, and if you don't have a consistent method it just feels random. Like the way you come through this click, which is basically you slide along the bottom and you hold, you don't have to hold very long because it's right there, but the click reverses you and makes you jump. And this combined with this, you just hit this saw early, or as you're coming down the other end on the other side you hit it and die all the time. And I figured out a pretty much 100% consistent method for this, which is you wait until the cube is late, because the problem is you can almost buffer this as soon as you get on this platform, because you'll kind of rattle it in this gap and not die, and it will just kind of ping you out somewhere, and that problem is that somewhere is just almost completely random. So you got to wait until you're kind of out the gap, so that when you click that late timing it comes out the same way, and after that late click here You click right in the middle of this orb and you will live almost every time. You then have to click this green orb sometime late because it's really easy. Obviously, if you buff it too early, you make it nowhere near. You're trying to land just on this lip here and, you know, hold this click to jump immediately. So you got to click late. If you click in the middle, it's still sketchy. You got to click quite late. And this was hard because, well, it's just difficult to really gauge this. If you die there, it'll hurt, but it gets consistent, I'd say. So it's not that bad. Most of the clicks after a certain point, most of the clicks are really under control, especially once you have methods like this. And so it becomes a consistent ending. Click this to come over, light tap to slide here, hold to immediately bounce off. You bounce off and click immediately. This sends you into a jewel, but that's so that you're back into like spring copter cube again. So you click this, your cube comes up like this. You need to click somewhere around here to go up and bounce off of this into here. You want to click more early. Clicking late is the main danger because maybe you'll hit this pad too late and you'll kind of come into this portal pretty much in a spike already. So you can click this on the earlier side just to be safe and come through here. Really light individual click just to maintain angle here. All of these clicks actually, they're fast paced once you're used to them. These are really quite consistent. Yeah, you come out as here. You have to click to start going this way, click to start going this way. A lot of wiggle room. You buffer this and then you kind of bounce through. Click, click, click. You shoot down here. You become a ship. You have to a little bit of a press to straighten out. When you click this, it kind of flings you in this direction. So you hold a little bit. The click's quite short, just enough to go like whoop, and then coast through. Click this until you're pretty firmly wedged in here. This is a click, I'm pretty sure. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, hold as the ship. So now the ship goes like this, straightens out, coast through. This moves up, so you go in an angular direction like this. This will be up here, and it's probably worth bearing in mind, although I never really focused on it, but I did realize this overlaps a little bit with the lower portion. So if you're going to aim for somewhere in this portal, you want to be more on the top side. And then it's just a bunch of clicks until the end. Immediately kind of buffer, boom, boom, boom up here. There are dash orbs that come up, like I think there's one here. You go boosh, boosh, boosh. Don't know what those sound effects are. Click, click. Then you bounce off a pad, and you again just really buffer, click, 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 you know, as the cube. Again, you see a lot of these really are free. It's just nerve-wracking because it's the end of this fucking level. And the scary bit, really at the end, it's again, to be honest, easy, but technically you can die to it. The scary thing is you just click this, and this dash orb, you're aiming to land on this platform and jump, but there are spikes on the front, and if you buffer it super early, so you jump and you click it on the lower side, you will immediately hit the spikes. So you need to go at least in the middle, and that gives you a pretty good look at jumping through. It is also possible to jump super early when you're on this platform and hit these spikes, but the window that's safe is also relatively open. So you hit this more in the middle, so you land on the platform, jump, and you can pretty much click these 4 clicks. Well, not this one. The first 3 clicks you can pretty much buffer. You click them really quick as like a pattern of 3. You go 1, 2, 3. This one makes you jump, makes you jump, makes you jump. And then this, if you hit too early, you obviously hit the spike. So you have to be deliberate about waiting and hitting this late. And as the ship here, you just pull up, make sure you keep straight through here, and that's the end of the level. There was some really weird stuff with this 3rd click though, where I somehow, it looked like the sort of thing that would kill you by being late, but I could have sworn I was clicking really early. And so in theory, I think the most consistent way that eliminates all deaths is if you click these 2 super quick. Be more separate about clicking this in a sort of medium timing, not hitting it ultra early, and then hitting this late as well. But you can get away with a lot here, actually. You could die really unfortunately, but I didn't personally, and it's unlikely. And yeah, that's the whole level. So the ending is okay, but you have to practice it. It's a very difficult level, but there's loads of it that's really niche, and a lot of the things that you would associate with this level, like the spam, are really doable. They're the easier parts. To be honest, it's all the extra stuff that's not spammy, there's loads of timings actually, that is really challenging. Oh, come on. That was bullshit. I don't know how I died after that dash orb. Come on. Fucking hell. No way. No way. It was today. It was today.